At the Sports History Network, we're proud to introduce you to a new sponsor for our podcasts. It's Home Field Apparel, your premium collegiate apparel brand right out of Indianapolis. They've got incredibly comfortable t-shirts, plus they're officially licensed with vintage college designs. They have over 150 plus colleges available now and always adding more. Homefield digs through the archives and history of your school to find unique logos, mascots, and moments to make thoughtful designs for your school. When you shop today, new customers can get a 15% discount off their first purchase using the promo code SPORTSHISTORY at checkout. You can learn more at homefieldapparel.com.
It's time for some Tuesday football archaeology as Timothy Brown of Football Archaeology joins us again this week to educate us on another aspect of football history. This week we chat about the work of Robert Ripley and an early connection to the history of football. Believe it or not, coming up.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history on a day-to-day basis. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time. So as we come out of the tunnel of the Sports History Network, let's take the field and go no huddle through the portal of positive gridiron history with pigskindispatch.com.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of pigskindispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pig Pen, your portal to positive football history. And as we try to do every Tuesday, we are going to talk to our friend from Football Archaeology, Tim Brown, great historian and author of multiple books and author of many tidbits that come out each and every evening for our football enjoyment. Tim Brown, welcome back to the Pig Pen.
Hey, Darren. Thank you. It's football season well underway, so always the best time of year.
Definitely. You know, we hate to see the weather start to change, but we know it's football season. It makes it the most exciting part of the year, especially on the weekends. And now it's spreading out throughout the whole week. So it's just even better, but better for us, maybe worse for the players, but still love the game.
Yeah, exactly.
So tonight I thought maybe we'd talk about one of your tidbits you had from mid-August on Ripley's Believe It or Not, and some of their thoughts on football. And I think most of our listeners are familiar with Ripley's Believe It or Not. And we're going to get rid of the not part when we talk to you. We always believe you, but let's hear what Ripley's had to say about football.
Yeah, I'm definitely a truth teller. I don't make anything up. So, just to take a step back, when I'm doing research on any topic that's football related, if I spot, and a lot of the early newspapers, so into even 1920 or something like that, a lot of times they didn't print photographs, they printed line drawings, so illustrations rather than photographs. And so I just find those really interesting. I find just the artwork interesting in general. And so if I spot one that I think I could write a tidbit about and make it interesting, then I just kind of have a way of cataloging them and coming back to them. So not too long ago, I came across this one by, I think his name is Robert Ripley, but so the guy from Ripley's Believe It or Not, and he grew up in California, ends up in working for the New York Globe as a cartoonist, and this is like World War I era, and so in 1919, he published a cartoon that was basically looking back at football prior to all the rule changes of 1905. So he's showing all these kind of conditions of what the game was like at the time. But the interesting thing about it was that his first Believe It or Not was published like 2 weeks after he did this cartoon. So this cartoon was pre-Believe It or Not, if you can believe it or not. So anyways, and then, once he did the Believe It or Not thing, and then he became famous and rich and all kinds of good stuff. So at the time, when he was still just a young illustrator, he did a thing, and he basically showed stuff like tandem blocking, and that's where before you had to have 7 men on the line of scrimmage. Sometimes teams would line up, they take the guard and tackle from the other side and line them up right behind the right tackle or whatever, and so 2 guys in tandem would then push through the hole. He showed kind of the days of when running backs had handles sewn on their pants so that guys could grab them by the handles and throw them over the pile to gain yardage, and guys hurdling. And he specifically showed or mentioned Harold Weeks of Columbia in that cartoon, who was famous for leaping over the line with both feet forward so that he could hit the opposing player in the chest to knock him down and continue running.
But was he the one that they sort of had that play where they would almost throw him over the line?
Yeah.
Too?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
They did it both ways. Somewhere he got a good head start and he leapt, with both feet forward, and others where they would swing him and then, pop him over.
Old alley-oop.
So, I mean, we still, now it's back, Mullins were outlawed for quite a long time, but now they're back in football. And so we see our offensive linemen. We just saw an example, one of the games on opening weekend, there was a lineman who pushed his guy across the goal line, right? And so that's legal again. It wasn't for a long time, but it's still not legal to pull. But back then, linemen pulled their running backs, forward as well.
I think they sort of opened that back up again. That famous USC Notre Dame game back when Reggie Bush got pushed over by Matt Leinart, I think, and a couple others. I think that critical play at the end. I think that's where they because it was illegal at that time, but they let it happen. And I think it was like the year after that they sort of lessened up on that rule and allowed that to happen again.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big, that was a big part of. I mean, it's just like a rugby scrum. I mean, it's kind of where that all came from, but they got rid of that for a long time. But then they also talked about, or his cartoon also included a little thing on punting and talking about roughing the punter, and which originally was roughing the fullback, because the fullback is typically who punted, and there's a long involved explanation of that, which if you search on my blog, you can find that whole thing, roughing the punter and what the origins of that. But anyways, it was just a cute cartoon. And so, just kind of, the other thing I liked about it was he in the article beneath it, he mentions that the changes in rules and more open play that had developed by 1919 when he published this thing allowed some smaller schools to become prominent, and he listed like Colgate, Georgia Tech, Dartmouth, Washington, Jefferson, Occidental, and Brown. And, really Georgia Tech's the only one now that's we consider prominent. W&J and Occidental played Division III, and now Occidental doesn't play anymore at all. So their time in the limelight didn't necessarily last that long.
Yeah, that's definitely true. There's a lot of those schools, the Lafayettes and Sewanees of the world too. Those are sort of, they had some big seasons, and now they're, like you say, they either don't have teams or they're playing Division II, Division III, or something else. So
yeah, and the flip side is that there's a lot of schools that didn't exist at the time that now are playing big time football. I mean, a lot of folks don't realize like Florida State was a women's school until like 1948. So, they've changed quite a bit, right? I mean, they were male back in like 1902 or 3 or something like that. And then they went all female. So, so a school like that. And then the Central Floridas and the FAUs, I mean, Florida's got a million of those schools. And so does Texas, schools that basically, were little commuter schools or normal schools, that kind of thing. But they, times changed, and now they're massive, significant universities. So
Yeah, it was one of those, like Florida International or Florida Atlantic. One of them I was reading about recently, and I was surprised to see that they just started having a football program like in the 1980s, or it might have been even 1990s. Even it wasn't that long ago they started a football program. Now they're playing FBS D1 football, and it's kind of unbelievable.
Yeah, I think there's about 6 schools playing FBS right now that didn't have football in 2000. So that's how fast some of those programs got up and running. And then there were a bunch of them that, even more that the school didn't exist until, the school didn't exist in, say, 1960. You got Boise State that was a junior college for a lot of its history. Anyways, I mean, there's as many examples there are of schools that dropped down. There's probably an equal number that have kind of risen up, or, they've become substantial schools, and, so they go with the advertising benefits of intercollegiate athletics.
Hey, football's a moneymaker, that's for sure. That's I think it's been like that for over 100 years, and still is that way today. So amazing. So some good stuff. And folks, if you want to enjoy this picture that Mr. Ripley drew way back when on Tim's site, there are some links through Pigskin Dispatch. We'll also try to put the link in the show notes of this podcast too, as well as how to get connected to Tim to have his daily tidbits delivered to you. And maybe Tim, you could talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah, so you can, go to footballarchaeology.com, subscribe, and, you can subscribe for free. There's also some paid levels, but if you subscribe for free, you'll get, at least one email every day that has whatever the tidbit is. And then I'm also on Twitter. Just look for Football Archaeology as well, and you should be able to find me.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for sharing this tidbit of football again with us and our listeners, and hope to talk to you again next week about some more.
Very good. Look forward to it. And we'll get together as always.
That's all the football history we have today, folks. Join us back tomorrow for more of your football history. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Jean Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
It was just another ordinary day in the offices of the Pittsburgh Guardian newspaper circa 1924. But for Marla Delft, assistant editor, everything was about to change. For she was about to discover the awesome attractiveness of Row 1 brand retro sports paraphernalia items thanks to Orville Mulligan, sports writer.
And there it is.
Wow, Orville, that's really the bee's knees.
Isn't it just? A poster-sized replica of the actual 1909 World Series program cover.
I can see that. But where did you get it? And where'd you get it framed?
I ordered it from the Row 1 website, where over 6,000 items of sports memorabilia from the 1880s to the 1990s are available for reproduction, in multiple sizes and in several different materials, with over a dozen styles of frame to choose from for prints like this.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Delft would love to put up more of these in the office. But I'm equally as sure they're beyond this newspaper's budget.
Not at all, my dear Marla. See for yourself. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com/row1.
sportshistorynetwork.com/row1. Oh my, these are good prices. Oh, and look at this stuff. Oklahoma-Nebraska football, college basketball art, Michael Jordan items.
And so
retro
it was that
sports
Marla Delft
advertisement
discovered the
placards.
splendiferous magic of Row 1 sports memorabilia, arts, and prints. You can too by visiting sportshistorynetwork.com/row1. That's ROW1. number 1 today for access to the full Row 1 catalog of gallery prints and gifts like t-shirts, long-sleeve shirts, telephone cases, coffee mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Act today for 15% discount off all prints with coupon code SHN15 and 20% off all other items with coupon code SHN20 at checkout. And keep your dial locked to the Sports History Network for the exciting chronicles of the 1920 sports world in Orville Mulligan, Sports Writer. Coming soon.